Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are returning from the depths to go explore the shallow tropical waters of the Caribbean to meet the Caribbean Reef Shark, Carcharhinus perezi. This is going to be a really fun species, especially since this one's difficult for me to identify, and which is a little silly because it's kind of the most basic shark. It's very popular in dive ecotourism. It's very, very popular in pretty much every Shark Week special because most of those specials are filmed in Bimini in the Bahamas. And so this is kind of like not the star species, but it's definitely like a staple species of those specials. I feel like Caribbean reef sharks tend to be in the background along with nurse sharks when compared to like bull sharks, tiger sharks, and great hammerheads, which tend to be featured on specials. But this is definitely a huge, huge staple of Caribbean dive ecotourism. So very excited to learn more about this species. What's also fun is that Caribbean reef sharks do make their way up the southern part of the United States, so the southeastern part of the United States, so Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and South Atlantic around the Carolinas. They don't really go up much further than that. So it's a shark that is kind of near where I am in Virginia, but not too close. And I'm kind of grateful selfishly because it's a little tricky for me to identify compared to other shark species. So I'm excited to dive in and learn what we can learn. Right now, we've got some really cool footage to review tonight, including some of the aforementioned dive ecotourism videos. And this is what the Caribbean reef shark looks like. Well, not this, because this is a kind of grouper right now. But Caribbean reef sharks have a very classic sharky appearance. So there's one right there. And that's what makes them kind of like deceptively tricky to identify. All Carcharhinus sharks are very hard to tell apart from one another, just because they all have a gray back, a white belly, or most of them have a gray back, a white belly, have the classic "Hey Howard, welcome back," have the classic sharky shape, like with the two dorsal fins, the pectoral fins, the anal fin, and the caudal fin, everything looking pointed. So it's going to be fun to really learn what makes a species its species, like what makes Caribbean reef shark unique. So I'm excited to dive in. But hope you had a great weekend, Howard. It's good to see you. By the way, I do have your victory copy of Sharks, Rays, and Chimeras of East Coast North America. This is your copy that I'm holding. This is not my book. This one is actually going to be sent out to you this week. So sorry for the delay, and thank you for your patience. But this is going to come to your way, and this actually includes information on the Caribbean reef shark. So I'm going to put this back down, but that is heading your way as winner of the banner contest for 2025. And also, I did get your art, so let me go ahead and put a pause in this. I'm going to change the speed to normal speed, because I like slowing it down for the intro. But for last week, we did the splendid lantern shark. And I just want to say thank you so much, Howard, for your beautiful artwork. Really showcasing the bioluminescent properties of this species. It's so cool to see the splendid lantern shark's characteristic blue-green glow in the deep mid-water depths, and to have it near a comb jellyfish, Menopsis ladii. That's a really especially fun detail. I also love this little, I presume this is a lanternfish in the background, because that, if it is, it's a really great lanternfish shape, actually. But it's so cool to see this shark with like the huge reflective eyes, the pretty pretty large head relative to the rest of the body, the prominent dorsal fin spines. You even captured that detail. So it's a really cool piece, and I really appreciate you sharing it. So thank you so much for sending this in, especially having the bioluminescence so prominent on the species. It's really cool to get some art on a splendid lantern shark. So thank you so much for sending this in. This was last week's species. So. Let's go back over here. So, yeah, absolutely. I just saw your comment. I'm so excited. It's really one of the coolest books I've ever read on sharks. So I'm really excited that it's coming your way. One thing that I really especially love about it is that it will have really cool data points where you will get like the depth range, the minimum shallow depth and the maximum depth. The temperature range, which is a very useful way to predict where sharks might show up, as far as like if the water temperature is X amount of degrees, you can reasonably predict that a shark that is native to that region may be there. And for me, I live in a very seasonal area, so whoops, what happened here? I live in a very seasonal area, so it's especially helpful for that. So, but yeah, hope you enjoy it. So. But wanted to take a look at our first piece of footage tonight for the Caribbean Reef Shark. So I was mentioning earlier that this is like a staple of dive ecotourism for the Bahamas and Florida. I guess Florida as well. It's a pretty common species, or so I thought. Right now it's endangered, which kind of surprised me. So. Oh yes, absolutely. Just like a comment, very useful in recreating the environment. Yeah. The new shark book and like all the habitat details. So I'm very excited, especially to see how it influences your art. It's gonna be really really cool. So, oh, this is a really famous dive operator, by the way. This is Stewart's Cove. That is probably arguably the most famous shark dive in the world. There's a couple other ones that are up there too. Becca Lagoon in Fiji is a pretty famous dive operation. I think any of the South Africa cage dives with white sharks, it's a pretty prominent operation. But it's really cool to see Stewart Cove. This is just a classic. Featured in a lot of documentaries over decades. So, and again, this is like the classic Discovery Channel Shark Week shark mix. So this is Caribbean reef sharks, nurse sharks, bull sharks, tiger sharks, great hammerheads. Like that's usually like the classic setup. And lemon sharks. That's like the classic setup. So right now I've only seen Caribbean reef sharks and nurse sharks in this video. We'll keep an eye out for other species, but you can easily tell Caribbean reef sharks apart from the nurse sharks just because nurse sharks are really elongated. They stick to the bottom. They are electolobiform, so they have their mouth in front of their eyes. Caribbean reef sharks are that classic shark build. One thing I'm going to challenge myself with is what makes a species different from other carcharhiniforms, or sorry, carcharhinids, so other requiem sharks. So what's tricky is that, okay, I can see that the first dorsal fin is kind of around the pectoral fin, like, insertions as far as its origin, so it's definitely not a dusky shark, because dusky sharks have their first dorsal fin further back on the body. You can see kind of stronger colors on the second dorsal fin and the anal fin, a little bit deeper, duskier pattern, not quite fully black. It definitely doesn't have like that sharp look that a blacktip shark has. Blacktip sharks have kind of more of like a pointed snout and a pointed look altogether. It's definitely not as stocky as a bull shark. Bull sharks they have a lot more girth. They have a lot more like kind of like weight on them. So I'm gonna rewind this, and I'm actually gonna slow it down again because I'm trying to figure out what makes this species, and we'll learn what makes this species unique tonight as we learn more about its biology. But I'm trying to see if I can suss it out as kind of like a challenge. And please let me know. If you see any observations that kind of help distinguish this Carcharhinus shark from others. Because this is going to sound dumb, but this is the sharkiest shark to me. This is the most normal looking shark to me. This is just the classic. It's kind of like this is what people think of when they think of a shark. That's a nurse shark right there. And that is also a nurse shark. So these are very easily identifiable and very docile, mostly docile animals. You don't want to get too close to them because nurse sharks will get angry if you harass them or anything. But they're pretty cuddly and pretty chill. So they're kind of like the couch potatoes of the shark world. But Caribbean reef shark is kind of funny. I mean, the pectoral fins look like a bull shark's a little bit, but the body's, again, not as stocky. I feel like fine-toothed sharks have a kind of a stubbier looking face, or a stubbier looking head. So, but I mean, it's so hard to kind of figure out. Like, it's so hard to really point out features that really make this shark unique looking. Sandbar sharks have a very prominent first dorsal fin, and this shark has a more normally sized dorsal fin. Spinner sharks have a black anal fin, and I know this Caribbean reef shark has a dusky to black angelfin as well, but it doesn't have like that pointed look of a spinner shark. I guess what I'm trying to say is like it always feels like this is the shark that's not the other sharks. So I think after this video we're gonna go check out. I think Florida Museum of Natural History, which we haven't seen in a while, is going to be a great place to start as far as figuring out what makes a Caribbean reef shark a Caribbean reef shark. But pretty popular species, does have a huge presence in the shallow waters of the Caribbean and through South America as well. They are piscivorous, so they're fish eaters. So that's kind of their primary prey items. They probably go after crabs and other invertebrates as well. I love this cute little nurse shark trying to get away from these Caribbean reef sharks that are quite a bit larger. Yeah, this would be such a cool experience to do because these are pretty harmless. They have formidable teeth, but they're not going after marine mammals. They're not really aggressive. This is actually probably a very safe shark to dive with for the most part. So even though the shark is swarming the bait, you can see that it's not agitated. It's pretty relaxed, and the environment is really relaxed. Apparently, bull sharks. Dive operators have to be careful how they handle bait because if they overstimulate bull sharks, they get extremely aggressive very quickly. And a lot more than other sharks. And aggressive as in like they get stimulated by the bait a little bit more easily than other sharks. These Caribbean reef sharks, even though there's quite a lot of bait and there's a lot of interest, they're not really hounding or harassing the divers. They're just kind of bumping into them and just kind of, curious. It's almost kind of like puppies. Like if you go like near like a bunch of puppies, like if you had like a bag of food and they just get super excited and they get close, but they're not being aggressive or violent or anything. So it's a great example of kind of debunking some shark fears where just because an animal is a shark, it doesn't mean it's this like aggro like monstrous thing. Because unfortunately, I mean that makes for like schmaltzy horror movies, and there's a constant reinforcement of sharks being these aggressive like animals, but the reality is they're just so variable in behavior, and I feel like this footage of Caribbean reef sharks peacefully interacting with divers is a great showcase of just how variable shark temperaments are, and that this species is probably one of the most chill that you can encounter on a dive. I think there was a Shark Week special of I forget if it was. I think it was Will Smith, I want to say. Because I know Anthony Mackie did a shark special recently, but I think this was older, where Will Smith did levels of sharks, and I think level 1 was nurse sharks, level 2 was Caribbean reef sharks, and then level 3 was a bull shark. Level 3 was hammerheads, and level 4 was a bull shark. So it the special was kind of going up and up and up as far as how dangerous that situation is. It's sad to see a Caribbean reef shark. We'll go over here, but it's a good PSA. There's a Caribbean reef shark that has a damaged mouth, and this is almost certainly from a fishing hook where it was just this individual. It was just pulled out improperly. Overall, the shark seems to be doing okay. It doesn't seem to be emaciated, and it seems to be swimming, normally. But still, I mean, it's a good example of how much damage an accidental hooking can cause as far as sharks go. So, because sharks are it's they're pure muscle, so they're very strong animals. But also, because of the cartilage, they're also quite sensitive to damage. They don't have the firm bony structure that other fish do. So, So something like a fishing hook can actually really do a lot of damage to the lower jaw. So. Howard said, I wonder what the factors are to have led to the Caribbean reef shark's endangerment. Yes, I am extremely curious as well. Because it's just such a charismatic species. It's such a popular species for diving. So I think what we might do is we'll do identification first. and then we'll go into conservation. So let's do that now because I think this video is almost over. So we'll check out our good friend, Florida Museum of Natural History, which we have not seen in a good long while because we've been doing a lot of exotic sharks. So it's going to be, oops, sorry. I think I got this right. It's going to be very cool to see what we can see. Have they become too attracted to people as a food source? That's a great question. I just saw your comment, Howard. That is an excellent question, and there has been an ongoing debate on dive ecotourism and how much that hurts sharks versus helps sharks. So for hurting sharks, there's an argument that dive ecotourism disrupts their natural feeding habits, it disrupts their natural ecology, and it ultimately is not good for the environment. However, the positive arguments are, well, a shark that is alive is worth like 10 to 1 so much more, like by a factor of 10 so much more than a dead shark. And dive ecotourism is a wonderful way to promote shark conservation. I tend to agree with the latter more, but I am curious to learn, as we learn about the Caribbean Reef Shark's conservation, what is really contributing to its endangerment. So, but Caribbean Reef Shark, here we go. This sturdy shark is abundant in the Caribbean, and because of its average features, it is often confused with other requiem sharks. So right out the gate, Florida Museum is saying exactly what I've been feeling, which is really funny. Oh my gosh. Usually growing 6.5 to 10 feet long, these are the apex predators of their food web. They've been found sleeping in caves and on the ocean floor, behavior that is still unexplained. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I would imagine this is kind of an obligate ram ventilator, like a shark that has to swim through the water column in order to breathe, because most other Carcharhinus are like that. There are some exceptions. The white-tip reef shark famously likes to chill out on the seabed and pump water with its gills. Lemon sharks do that too. Lemon sharks will sit on the seabed and pump water over their gills. So, maybe it's not the most strange thing for a Caribbean reef shark to do that, but I'm kind of shocked. It doesn't seem like it's built for sitting on the seabed, but that's fascinating. There have been concerns over eating these sharks because of the buildup of toxins in their flesh, but they're now valued for tourism more than food, which brings its own safety issues. Interesting. This shark's common name, Caribbean Reef Shark, is quite suitable since the shark mainly inhabits coral reefs in the Caribbean and off South America. Other common names include Cabeza dura, Carabiche reefi, Reef Shark, Requin de Recife, Shark Tiburon, and Tiburon corallino. Let's see. Caribbean reef sharks are prohibited from being caught by commercial fishers in U.S. waters. However, harvests of these sharks may be permissible in other countries. During the past few decades, an increasingly popular and even more controversial commercial aspect of the Caribbean reef shark has emerged. To increase clientele, many dive boat operations have come to include shark feeding dives as a part of their agenda, with some of the most popular sites being main habitats for Caribbean reef sharks. Although new regulations prohibit such feedings off the coast of Florida, no such restrictions have been placed on operations in Bahamian or other Caribbean waters. This is really interesting, Howard, because this is actually right on point with what you mentioned earlier, that, like you said, it's like a garbage dump to bears. Like, having a provided food source might pose some risk to the species, or might pose some, I would say, ecological disruption. I'm very, very curious about this. Danger to humans. The Caribbean reef shark infrequently attacks humans. In general, a shark attack on a human is behaviorally similar to an attack upon natural prey. A human is more susceptible to being attacked. If the shark is cornered, it feels there is no escape route. It's kind of like snakes. A lot of snakes do not want to bother with humans. They don't care, but if they feel like they're cornered, they will strike. In situations like these, the sharks may rake the victim during the attack, resulting in lacerations. So raking as in they will open their mouth and kind of like do a quick bite, or just like, open their mouth and slash at someone's arm or someone's leg as kind of like a rake. So, although these characteristics had not been recorded in specific associations with the Caribbean reef shark, based on observations of gray reef sharks, it is possible the Caribbean reef shark may display similar behavior. So it's an interesting assumption. I'm curious to learn more about. We're going to check out Andy Merck's dive website to learn more about dive notes with the species. But this is actually fascinating. Look at this. Possible signals indicating a Caribbean reef shark attack may attack or display threat. So the head swings well out of the normal path and may turn upward, yielding a weaving or spiraling pattern in the shark's path. So exaggerated swimming. Sharp, quick movements or turns increase in number. So agitation. The back arches like a cat. Another kind of agitation. And then one or both pectoral fins are lowered with trailing edges directed to the rear. So it's really cool to see shark behaviors like this. This is kind of like, I think horses where they have their ears pointed back, you know that they're about to kick. Or, cats, they have their backs arched, or dogs. I think dogs have, it depends on their tail. Like, if their tail is positioned a certain way, it's a sign. I forget if it's dogs or wolves. If their tail is positioned a certain way, it's a sign that this is not good. So it's really cool to see shark signs, really the shark signs being exaggerated swimming, the angled pectoral fins, and the arched back. All that stuff indicates something's wrong, so which is really cool. I love when sharks signal like that. Like I love when sharks, they're so graceful and so natural in the water. When they start changing that kind of behavior, it's really cool to see that they have the power to do that, and they have the power to kind of communicate when something's wrong, and it's kind of amazing to think about that. They're not like they're able to kind of do threat displays. Like back off. I'm not happy with you here. So another danger posed to humans by the Caribbean reef shark involves the accumulation of toxins in the flesh of the shark. Since sharks are apex marine predators, they may contain toxic levels of mercury and other heavy metals due to bioaccumulation, increasing concentrations at higher levels in the food web. It was found that methylmercury levels in sharks off the coast of Florida were higher than the FDA guidelines. So it's always great not to eat sharks because that's the right thing to do. But as far as one of the most best ways to help sharks is not eat them. But it's also really amazing that it's not just a selfless act; it's also a selfish act where it's like, yeah, you want to make sure that you don't get poisoned by, and it makes sense. Like just as like a little plankton can have like a tiny bit of mercury, and then think about what eats the plankton. Like zooplankton accumulate that, and then think about what eats the zooplankton. Like filter feeding fish eat that. And then bigger fish eat the filter feeding fish, and then sharks eat the bigger fish. And it's just like, if that's the shark's only food source, these other fish that are just like really brimming with mercury, that's what bioaccumulation is. So, it's just kind of fascinating to see that. A lot of shark meat is actually really toxic. I think of, because of like the high urea count anyway. So you think of like Greenland sharks having toxic meat, famously toxic meat. That has to be cured in a certain way. I would never touch. On principle, I never touch shark food, but it's kind of amazing to see that. Yeah, Florida sharks are so contaminated with mercury that you just never even want to try. So this conservation note is outdated, so we'll take a look. I think we'll hop over now to take a look at IUCN Red List to see what makes the Caribbean reef shark endangered. So here we go. I'm going to just take a sip of water for a break. Excuse me. Alright, the Caribbean reef shark, Carcharhinus perezi, is a medium-sized reef-dwelling shark found throughout the western central Atlantic from the North Carolina, United States of America and the Bahamas, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean Sea to Brazil. It occurs mainly on coral reefs on continental and insular shelves from a surface to a depth of 378 meters. I think it's so cool to see coral-associated sharks, because I'm personally just not used to that. So it's fun to see reef species like the Caribbean reef shark, the sickle-fin lemon shark, the gray reef shark. It's just really cool. This inshore shark has low productivity due to a biennial reproductive cycle with a 1 year long gestation and relatively small litters of 3 to 6 pups. It is taken as target species and is bycatch in artisanal and commercial fisheries throughout its range. In areas where it is not protected, there have been population reductions of 99% over the past 3 generation lengths, based on baited remote underwater video stations. So this is devastating because baited remote underwater video stations, or VRUVS, roofs, these are very effective at assessing how many sharks are in an area, because if you were scuba diving or fishing, you're getting kind of a very human biased sample, but these VRUVS stations, they actually, since they're not in the human water, they don't disturb the environment that much, and so they're places, their stations that kind of are more accommodating for sharks to kind of come out. Like, sharks are a little bit more comfortable approaching these stations, so they're actually more accurate at assessing what kind of sharks are active in an area than humans are. So to see that, a 99% population reduction is based on a lack of observations, even with video, it's just devastating to see that. So. However, in areas where protection measures are in place, such as shark sanctuaries, for example, the Bahamas, the population has remained relatively stable since the 1980s. A comparison of the number of sharks per reef throughout the Caribbean Sea based on BRUVS data also suggests abundance is 6 times higher in areas where protections are in place. A preliminary estimate indicates that 20% of the Caribbean is designated as a shark sanctuary, where commercial shark fishing is prohibited, providing some protection for Caribbean reef shark. The reef area weighted population depletion level for Caribbean reef shark estimates a population reduction of 52%, assuming that this depletion occurred over the past 3 generation lengths. The range in estimated population reduction includes both the vulnerable and endangered red list categories, but most of the range is within the endangered category. Due to the relatively high level of inadequately managed fishing pressure, its relatively unproductive life history, the lack of enforcement in established protection areas, and a continuing decline in habitat quality, it is estimated the Caribbean reef shark has undergone a population reduction of 50 to 79% over the past 3 generation lengths, and is assessed as endangered. So, kind of an interesting assessment. As far as an endangered species assessment, it's not the worst, because a lot of the assessments, have no end in sight. But for this species, it's really cool to see that there are some areas like the Bahamas where there is a shark sanctuary that keeps a stable population. So, and the fact that the population has been stable since the 80s is a glimmer of hope for this species. It's kind of want to think about it. I mean, like 80s, 90s, 2000s. That's like over 40 years ago. That's actually pretty good. For that part of it is pretty good for the shark, but it's still unbelievable to see that other parts of the range that don't have protections, how much the species has plummeted. So it's kind of a weird mix of there's some hope here as far as the effectiveness of shark sanctuaries. Also, the factor of 6 to 1, that a shark sanctuary has 6 times the amount of abundance than a non-protected area, is really. It simultaneously shows how important sanctuaries are, but also shows how much we ravage the unprotected areas. So I'm kind of curious to see specific conservation actions. So, and yes, Howard, I definitely agree. That kind of stability is encouraging. I definitely agree with that. So let's see the specific actions that have been in place here. So. In July 2006, the United States National Marine Fisheries Service finalized the Consolidated Atlantic Highly Migratory Species Federal Management Plan. This federal management plan includes a range of management measures, including quotas and seasonal closures. Caribbean reef sharks are listed as a prohibited species to commercial and recreational harvests under this management plan. In the Bahamas, longline fishing was banned in 1993, and peak Lazarus export occurred the same year. The export steadily declined until the last export of any Lazarus product from the Bahamas occurred in 2004. The Bahamas Shark Sanctuary was established in 2011, and it is currently illegal to fish for, land, or possess any sharks or shark parts there. That's really cool. like a whole nation, you know, where sharks are protected. It's so cool. Enforcement is very underfunded and inadequate, making it possible that exploitation may be occurring at present or in the future. Cuba has designated 21% of the country as a marine protected area. There is no fishing for sharks or rays in these areas. The most important marine protected area is Jardines de la Reina, Alejandro de Humboldt, Guanacabibes. Shark fishing is illegal in Jardines de la Reina Marine Reserve, and local guides have noted an increasing in sightings of many species of reef-associated sharks, including this species since 1997, when the reserve was declared and enforcement of fishing regulations began. Cuba also has two places designed for diving with sharks, Santa Lucia and Jardines de la Reina. Cuba has a prohibition on fitting and in 2015 adopted a national plan of action for sharks. In Mexico, there is a closed season for the shark fishery in May and June in the states of Tamaulipas, Veracruz, and Quintana Roo, and May 15th through June 15th and August 1st through 29th in the states of Tabasco, Campeche, and Yucatan. The official standard establishes management measures that finning be prohibited. It also establishes that fishing is prohibited at the surrounding area of 5 kilometers of coral reef areas, at adjacent areas in front of mouths of rivers and coastal lagoons, and at nursery areas. Prohibited the use of gill nets in June in front of Playa Bagdad, Tamaulipas. There's a marine protected area of 30 kilometers from the Rio Bravo's mouth to Conchanal, Terminus Lagoon, Campeche, Usumacinta, Rilava Rivers, Tabasco, Yalajal Lagoon, Quintana Roo, and Espiritu Santo and Ascension Bays, Quintana Roo. There's also a management plan of the Natural Protected Area Biosphere Reserve of the Mexican Caribbean that prohibits any lazarbank fishery in all of this biosphere reserve that comprises all Mexican Caribbean. There are enforcement problems. In the wider Caribbean, the Regional Office of Fisheries in the System of Integration prohibits shark finning with the resolution in all of the Central American countries from Belize to Panama, including the Dominican Republic. So this species, I'll keep reading, but this species is really an amazing focal point of international conservation actions. It's so cool to see all these multifaceted approaches to shark conservation. And it's actually really amazing to see and encouraging to see how active it is in the Caribbean and in the United States as well. Because I feel like we've talked about countries that have measures in place, like the United States and Australia typically have a lot of great measures in place for protection. And then there's other parts of the world where just there's basically nothing, So it's really cool to see more nations having a pretty robust layout of their shark management plans and, or protection plans. And it's sad that some of them are not enforced as well, but still, it's really cool to see that there's at least something. In Belize, there are currently no conservation measures protecting sharks throughout territorial waters. That's kind of wild to me because Belize is supposed to be one of the best dive areas in the world, so you would think there would be an effort to do that. Despite no-take restrictions in marine reserves, illegal fishing continues to take place and reef sharks are known to be caught. As such, increased enforcement is required in Belize's 13 marine reserves to specifically protect shark species against illegal fishing. Most sharks caught as bycatch in the hook and line fisheries could be released live but are usually landed. In Guatemala, there's a fishing ban for 1 month, usually August, for the capture of sharks, and 2 months, usually July and August, for rays. However, enforcement of these bans is a challenge. In Honduras, there's a national regulation that declared the territorial waters of Honduras a shark sanctuary. Fishing and exploitation of all shark species are prohibited in all territorial waters of Honduras. This regulation was revised by a new regulation, which indicated that sharks are incidentally caught can be used. There are enforcement problems. So you could see this is a common thing, and it's really a shame where there are regulations in place, but a lot of people are, from what I've read, a lot of people either just flout the regulations, threaten people, or threaten anyone trying to enforce the regulations, and effectively kind of make them toothless. It depends on the country, but it's really sad to see that, when you see like enforcement problems, it tends to be that where the regulations are either just openly ignored, or there is mounting pressure, and sometimes violence, or violent pressure to push push against them. So which is sad. Currently, there's some marine. Fair point, Howard. Just saw your comment. So. Currently, there are some marine protected areas in the middle and west of the Caribbean coast of Panama. For example, Portobello National Park, Bastimentos Island National Marine Park. These protected areas provide a certain level of ecosystem management through implementing control over local fisheries and providing protection for critical habitats, for example, coral reefs, mangrove. Both of these measures can benefit shark populations. Despite the creation of these marine parks, enforcement of protective initiatives in these areas is a challenge. In addition to the creation of marine protected areas, Panama has established nationwide conservation and management policies for the fishing industry. In 2006, an official regulation was approved that prohibits shark finning in Panama waters. In 2017, new regulations are implemented for longline fisheries, for example, limits on the number of hooks to 1,000 per surface longline strand, which will help to further contribute to the conservation and management of sharks in Panama. The archipelago of San Andreas y Providencia, Colombia, was declared a biosphere reserve by UNESCO in 2000 and covers an area of 180,000 square kilometers. For example, that is 10% of the total area of the Caribbean Sea. Wait a minute. I'm so curious about this. 10% of the entire Caribbean Sea? Archipelago de San Andreas Providencia. This is different language, but this is gorgeous. Gorgeous water. Okay. Oh, I see. Well, I'm still shocked by that figure, but this is where it is in the world. So, let's see if I can zoom in. So it's kind of close to Mexico. So interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, not Mexico. I'm so sorry. North of Panama. So the southwestern Caribbean. So interesting. Since 2008, all shark species have been fully protected in the Seaflower Biosphere Reserve, banning fishing and possession of all sharks and their byproducts. This has led to one of the highest shark abundances found in the Caribbean Sea. Local communities push for these shark conservation measures in the archipelago, simplifying their enforcement by local authorities. Enforcement in remote regions against poaching has been challenging, although the Colombian Navy has been leading the enforcement of these areas, and has enabled scientific data collection. In addition, Colombia has banned wire leaders in their longline fisheries as a bycatch reduction measure across the entire exclusive economic zone, where industrial fishers are only allowed to have a total shark bycatch of 35% in a single fishing trip. Finning is prohibited within the Colombia EEZ, and fins are required to be attached naturally to the body at the point of landing. So this is really cool. This is what the United States did. I want to say it's the 90s that the United States did this, but this has been one of the most important shark conservation measures out there, where if you have a shark, if you fished for a shark and you finned it at sea, you cannot get paid for it. So it has to be a total carcass. You have to have a shark with all of its fins attached. So this was a great way to kind of help stop or curtail the practice of finning, which is just a barbaric practice. And also a great way to make sure that, if you're fishing for sharks, you're fishing for the ones that, are, doing better or like are not endangered, like the hammerheads are critically endangered, so you should not be fishing for those, or mako sharks you should not be fishing for. So it's a great way when you land the whole carcass to help identify or verify the species that you're fishing for is permitted. So some are and some are not. So yes, stop finning yesterday. Antilles, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago developed draft MPOA sharks in 2015, 16, and 17 respectively. However, for Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, they are still in draft form due to a combination of factors, including a lack of political will. For the Dutch Caribbean, spatial management measures have been implemented. The Yarari Marine Mammal and Shark Sanctuary was created in 2015 for Bonaire, St. Eustatius, and Saba in the Caribbean Netherlands. In November 2011, the Kingdom of the Netherlands ratified the Memorandum of Understanding of the Conservation of Migratory Sharks of the Convention of the Conservation of Migratory Species. There are no species-specific protections or conservation measures in the South American portion of its range. In Brazil, there have been a finning ban in place since 1998, and a national plan of action for sharks and rays was implemented in 2014. To conserve the population and to permit a recovery, a suite of measures will be required, which may include species protection, spatial management, bycatch mitigation, and harvest and trade management measures, including international trade measures. Effective enforcement of the measures will require ongoing training and capacity building, including the area of species identification. Catch monitoring is needed to help understand population trends and inform management. So, that was a lot of information, but a lot of good information. It's really cool to see a suite of measures from different countries to help protect the species. It's also going to be interesting to see how ecotourism helps the species, but also we saw a little preview of how it is a little bit concerning. So I think as we learn more tonight, it'll be good to kind of hone in on some of the ecotourism debate. And I think this is an excellent species to talk about that. But really, the big thing for this shark is it's like a lot of other Carcharhinus sharks. Slow to grow, slow to reproduce. It does not handle fishing pressure well, and fishing pressure being bycatch. This is a beautiful area, by the way, just looking at the Caribbean. This is so pretty. So it's a shark that's especially sensitive to suites of measures, and it needs protected areas where it's alleviated of that pressure. Unfortunately for most of its range, it has that pressure, and it's not going to be, or in areas where it has that pressure, it's not going to be quick to recover. But for the protected areas, it's really wonderful to see that, it's actually doing okay, or not doing okay, but it is like Howard, totally agree. It is really a model for ecotourism. So it's a great focus species for the positive and negatives of that. So, speaking of ecotourism, this is really cool stuff to see. Great shots of the Caribbean, including that lionfish. Unfortunately, this is an invasive species. Lionfish are native to the Pacific. It's shocking that they're here, but unfortunately they are in the Caribbean as an invasive species. A lot of cool different kinds of animals. Looks like a hawksbill sea turtle. Which is really beautiful to see. This is Stewart Cove again. And here is the shark feed with Caribbean Reef Sharks. I'm looking for other species too, but it looks like this is an entire school of Caribbean Reef Sharks. I kind of hope I do this someday. This is not high on my bucket list. I love sharks, but I focus more on mid-Atlantic species, so I don't know if I will make it down to the Bahamas or Florida for shark stuff. I probably will someday. So I hope to do this someday. But not high on my bucket list. What is higher on my bucket list is there's a shark dive in Rhode Island, because that's more my speed as far as mid-Atlantic shark species. So I'm more of a temperate water person. But this is still really cool, and this is just a world famous experience to go to Stewart Cove to meet these beautiful sharks. So. Hello, Quackers! Welcome. Hope you had a great weekend, and hope you're enjoying the stream so far. This is Caribbean Reef Shark Night. So we just covered a lot of the conservation of the species. There's a lot of different management measures in place. Some of them are effective, some of them are not. it sounds like the most effective are the Bahamas, which has really strong marine protected areas. Cuba has a pretty cool marine protected area, but other countries, unfortunately, they don't really. And actually, I guess Mexico has a suite of measures too. This is interesting, by the way. This is a demonstration of tonic immobility. This guy holding the shark. Now, this is not great because this is. You can make an argument that's a little bit of harassment. You don't want to like touch sharks. You don't want to really mess with them. But I do want to go back to this because it is a good demonstration of a condition that many sharks, if not all, can be induced into, which is tonic immobility. So the idea is, and we'll kind of go back here. So all sharks have the ampullae lorenzini. So these are electromagnetic sensing sensors at near the tip or near the snout. They're around the head and the snout. And the idea is, oh yeah, I love this. I was literally rambling about tonic immobility with my sister yesterday. Awesome. So yeah, the idea is if the senses or the sensors, the ampullae lorenzini, which are like these little pores with these like jelly filled sacs that are meant to detect electromagnetic fields. So if a shark is about maybe 6 feet away, maybe 10 feet away, it can pick up on any living thing's electromagnetic field, which is so cool. And the idea is if a human is holding a shark's snout and kind of like rubbing it or just kind of like keeping a firm hold on it, it's overstimulating the electromagnetic senses, and the shark goes into this trance-like state. It's this kind of like relaxed state. Now, the big thing I've heard is if you flip a shark over, that's how you induce tonic immobility. But it looks like when you see that this shark is not moving at all, it looks like this diver is inducing it by holding the shark's snout. But a question: does tonic immobility hurt them? Because in like chickens, it could be pain enough to kill them. That's a really good question, and I'm honestly not sure. I've not heard of that. Like the way to test that though, and a really good experiment to do would be if you induced tonic immobility in a shark. Can you take a blood sample and see if it is producing cortisol or other stress hormones? Usually, there are some actually really cool studies where the sharks are subjected to different conditions, and blood samples are taken and they are analyzed to the molecular level where you can see the concentration of cortisol or the hormone studies I've seen with sharks include like cortisol, testosterone, I guess estrogen. There have been some estrogen studies in sharks, but the point is cortisol is thought to be a sign of stress, where if a shark is under a severe amount of stress, it produces more of the stress hormones. So that's one way to kind of measure if tonic immobility is a stress-inducing condition for a shark. So, I see. Next time I'm over sim dissociated, I'll say I'm experiencing tonic immobility. Love that. And Howard, yes, I wouldn't bet my hand on it. Yes. Also, great observation, by the way. You can notice that this diver is wearing chainmail. So you can see that they have a chainmail rigging on their hand as well. So, which is thought to be effective for sharks' bites, as far as it's such a it's a shape that can kind of catch the teeth and kind of absorb the impact. But it is interesting that this guy is taking that risk with the chainmail. And I'm actually kind of curious if the chainmail itself as a metal is affecting their tonic immobility or affecting their ampullae lorenzini stimulation. Because there's been a lot of studies about different metals messing with a shark's electromagnetic field. The most famous are studies by Craig O'Connell, which, and I think I might have him in one of the papers that we're going to see tonight, but there have been studies of, can you make an electromagnetic fence to help protect you from sharks? So that way sharks, they don't get tangled in a physical fence. They actually have electromagnetic sensors or electromagnetic fences that deter them because they kind of mess with their ampullae lorenzini. Brilliant concept. It's a great way to keep sharks safe and keep humans safe. The last time I heard, there were successful trials on bull sharks, but I think they tried to do it with great whites, and it was kind of like inconclusive. So, but it's a genius concept. There's also been studies about changing fishing hooks to be made of a kind of metal that will mess with a shark's electro senses and deter them from biting the hook. Those have not been effective yet. It's a great concept, but they have not really worked so far, which is a shame because I think it's a brilliant idea. But yeah. Oh, interesting. I've heard that the chainmail specifically stems the shark. It's so interesting. So I've never that was a guess I had. I never heard it directly before. So that's really cool, Quackers. That you've heard that before. That's so cool. I'm trying to think what else. If I had any other notes on tonic mobility. So, but oh yes. So for the studies about electromagnetic, like fences or fields, having these electromagnetic fences in place to help prevent sharks from interacting with humans. I think it was a kind of barium is the metal that they were using, but I'm not 100% sure. I have to reread that paper. So, but overall, really cool discussion, really cool dive experience. It's like the difference between scratching your head with your hand and scratching with one of those head scratchy things. Yep. Oh my gosh. That's a really good point. Are you talking about like the wire thing? I remember I had a dorm mate in college, and that was the strangest experience. Very, very strange things. So, oh yeah, it does. Okay, yeah, very different simulation. Yep. So, I think we'll hop back to Florida Museum. I didn't know what it was called either. It's like I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a strange thing. I'm happy to never meet it again because it doesn't feel bad. It just feels weird. So, but let's see. We'll go back to Florida Museum of Natural History to learn more about the Caribbean Reef Shark's basic biology, and then I'd love to learn some dive notes. So we'll take a look at that too. The Caribbean reef shark is the most common shark on or near coral reefs in the Caribbean. It is a tropical inshore bottom-dwelling species on the continental insular shelves. Although it mainly inhabits shallow waters, it is recorded to reach depths of at least 30 meters. That's still kind of shallow for sharks. Caribbean reef sharks are commonly found close to drop-offs on the outer edges of coral reefs and may also lie motionless on the bottom of the ocean floor. This phenomenon has also been observed in caves off the coast of Mexico and off the Brazilian archipelago of Fernando de Noronha. So this is really cool. Here is a photograph of a Caribbean reef shark sleeping on the bottom. So it's so cool to see this because I've only heard of white tip reef sharks doing that, and that's a different genus. That's Trianodon. So it's really cool to see that the Carcharhinus shark is actually just sitting there. I've never heard of that before. So, oh, Howard, I think Valerie Taylor was the first diver I knew to wear chainmail in handling sharks. That is so cool. She has a huge name, and I think I didn't realize this for the longest time. She was the consultant because I think I told you guys. My fiance and I watched Jaws recently, and we learned some more behind the scenes things. Including that Valerie Taylor was actually a consultant for Jaws and provided real-life great white shark footage for that movie. Specifically the scenes with Hooper in the shark cage. Those scenes are intercut between the robot shark and a real great white shark that Valerie Taylor was diving with, and also a mako shark that got caught in the cage, got stuck in it, and released itself. But that footage from Jaws is a mix of a robot shark, a mako shark, and a real life great white shark. So, was her husband Ronnie Fox? I don't think so, but I don't know. Let me look that up. These are great names, by the way. Ronnie Fox is very, very famous shark attack survivor of white sharks, and now is a white shark conservationist. So let's see, Ronnie Fox. He does a lot of shark dives. Let's see. He's one of the world's foremost authorities on white sharks. Oh, he was also a consultant for Jaws Wild. So I think Valerie Taylor was married to someone else, and that might have been Ron Taylor? Yeah, Ron Taylor is who she was married to. So, but she's worked with Ronnie Fox. So she and Ron Taylor are husband and wife, but they both worked with Ronnie Fox for shark, diving, shark videography, and ultimately shark conservation. So really cool names. I'm very excited about this for the Caribbean Reef Shark. Distinguishing characteristics. So, oh man, these seem generic. Snout is short and bluntly rounded, so most Carcharhinus sharks have that, so that's not super helpful. Pectoral fins are large and narrow. Most Carcharhinus sharks have that. That is also not helpful. First dorsal fin is small with a short rear tip. Most Carcharhinus sharks have that, so that is not helpful. Man, I'm kind of cracking up that so far I'm kind of being proved right that this is the sharkiest shark, and it's the shark that's not the others. Like it's just not a very, there's not like distinguishing little nuances so far, but we'll keep reading. So distinctive features: the Caribbean Reef Shark has an interdorsal ridge. Okay, so that does help. That's a helpful trait. From the rear of the first dorsal fin to the front of the second dorsal fin. The second dorsal fin, and that's something that helps distinguish it from bull sharks. Bull sharks don't have a ridge. Caribbean Reef Sharks do. The second dorsal fin is a very short free rear tip. Snout of Carcharhinus perezi is moderately short and broadly rounded. Is poorly developed, low anterior nasal flaps, and relatively large circular eyes. Caribbean Reef Sharks also have moderately long gill slits, with the third gill slit line above the origin of the pectoral fin. Comparison with similar sharks. Here we go. So a dusky shark. Dusky shark. This is so unhelpful. It says dusky shark has broadly triangular anterior upper teeth. That's hard to tell apart in the wild. And a much longer freer tip of the second dorsal fin. That's really hard to tell apart. Sandbar shark has like a huge first dorsal fin. Black tip shark has a pale white anal fin. Okay, so that's actually helpful. So black tip sharks, we talked about this on the spinner shark stream. Black tip sharks have a white anal fin. Spinner sharks have a black anal fin. Otherwise, they look very similar. So that's actually really cool to point this out. As far as the Caribbean Reef Shark goes, Caribbean Reef Shark has a dusky colored anal fin. So silky sharks. Silkies kind of have their dorsal fin further back on the body, so I think that's kind of easier to tell apart. Big nose shark. This is tricky. The shark has larger snout and triangular teeth and are more broad. Galapagos sharks have a more erect first dorsal fin, longer rear tip. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not super helpful. It's really hard to kind of find features that you can point to and be like, oh, that's definitely a Caribbean Reef Shark. It's kind of like the sum of all features that's like, nah. Coloration: Caribbean Reef Sharks are dark gray or gray-brown above, with white or whitish below. The undersides of pair fins, anal and ventral caudal lobe are dusky colored with no distinctive silver gray or white undersides. Here's a nice diagram of Caribbean Reef Shark teeth. So pretty nice piscivorous dentition in the sense that the teeth are very a little bit more narrow, so they're not broad or serrated like the larger members of this genus. So, you know, good fish-eating teeth. Maximum size is nearly 3 meters, so it can be a pretty big shark. Like many sharks, the Caribbean Reef Shark mainly eats bony fishes. The shark uses 6 keen senses to locate its prey: olfactory, visual, tactile, auditory, gustatory, and electric reception. All sharks do this, so I'm not sure why they made a note of it. The Caribbean Reef Shark is especially adapted to detecting low-frequency sounds indicative of struggling fish nearby. This is really cool. Although this shark's reproduction has not been studied in the northern hemisphere, but in the south, parturition occurs during the Amazon summer of November to December. Pregnant females are often found to have biting scars from males on the sides of their bodies due to aggressive behaviors of males during mating. Gestation is believed to take approximately 1 year. Let's see. I guess I'll read the story. So, a pregnant female with biting scars and wounds was on the sides of her body, taken off the coast northeastern Brazil, carried 4 near-term embryos. Because she was carrying near-term embryos, it is possible this area may be a pupping ground. So northeastern Brazil could be a pupping ground, which is really cool because you have like the Amazon River basin and areas that can become really cool estuaries. And as we know for other parts of the world, estuaries are great habitats for pupping sharks. They're safe areas for baby sharks to grow and develop. I'm not sure if there's mangrove forest around that coast, but those are also really great nursery areas if there are mangrove forests. So, let's see. Predators. It is likely that smaller juvenile Caribbean reef sharks fall prey to larger sharks such as the tiger shark and bull shark. And they have a note about names. I'll check FishBase for the names. We talked about Carcharhinus multiple times, but I'm kind of curious where the name perezi comes from. And apparently comes from Professor Laureano Perez Arcas, who was a specialist entomologist and malacologist who became professor of zoology at the University of Madrid and Poe's friend and companion. So this shark was named by Poe in 1876, and Poe apparently named Carcharhinus perezii after his friend. So that's where that name comes from. For future shark researchers, this is seen as bad practice. We do not want to name animals after friends. We want to name them after traits that the animals have. I guess you could make an exception for the Caribbean reef shark because it doesn't really have distinctive traits. It really, truly is the sharkiest shark. Here's a nice photograph of the Caribbean reef shark. And again, it's just really hard to identify things that just make it distinctive looking. Really, the things I can point to are probably the duskiness on the fins. I mean, they're actually really, really dark, almost black. So dusky margin in the caudal, dusky second dorsal and anal fin, dusky tips on the pectoral fins. But the first dorsal fin is kind of near the free rear tips of the pectoral fins. The pectoral fin margin, almost kind of somewhere around the margin of the insertion. So it's kind of like the fin placement, the coloration, the rounded snout. The sum of those parts, I guess, equals a Caribbean reef shark. But otherwise, just at first glance, it really just doesn't have distinctive features that other sharks have to kind of help easily identify them. So this one is, I would say this is probably the most difficult. It's tricky because it's so popular in dive operations. It's very easy to pick it apart from other sharks. But if you compare this to other members of the genus Carcharhinus, I think you can make a good case that this is the most difficult shark to identify. Dusky sharks are seen as difficult too, but I would say dusky sharks, Caribbean reef sharks, and big nose sharks. Those are Galapagos sharks those Galapagos sharks, dusky sharks, Caribbean reef sharks, I think those are very hard to identify comparatively. So, yeah, so I would say for this part of the world, probably the most difficult one. Especially, here's a juvenile. Um, oh, oh, let's see if I could zoom in. That's almost impossible. I mean, that looks just so different. This almost looks like a completely different species with the pointed snout. But like, yeah, this is. I would say this is the most difficult shark to identify in the western or the northwestern Atlantic, probably. So I can't think of another species that, you know, like in the field this would be tricky. So I don't know. Speaking of the field, let's learn more about diving with Caribbean reef sharks. And I think I had another clip before we had some dive notes. So this is much shorter, but beautiful shot of the shark swimming in this crystal clear water. It's so cool to see this kind of environment. This is just a classic, like, it's like a screensaver environment. You know, it's almost unreal how beautiful that is. So I think I have another clip similar to that. Not as clear, but still, well, actually still pretty good looking. So it's cool to see in the tropical Atlantic a mix of coral reef habitats and then also these sand flats with eelgrass beds or other kind of seagrass beds. Great shot of the Caribbean reef shark just cruising. And I mean, you could even just tell by the way it's moving. It's a pretty inoffensive shark, so probably very easy to dive with. Going over this little coral pass. So let's see what we can learn. This is sharksaways.com by Andy Merck. Identification. Just want to see if he has any unique notes. Relatively stout body. Snout short and rounded. Origin of first dorsal fin level. Free tip of pectoral fin. Free tip of second dorsal fin quite short. Interdorsal ridge present. Dorsal coloration grayish brown. Subtle flank stripe. White ventrally. There he is again. I mean, it's a beautiful animal. It's just so. This species is personally very difficult for me, where it's like I can't look at it and immediately say that's a Caribbean reef shark. I could do that with bull sharks, sandbar sharks, duskies. I could do that with probably, but this is tricky for me, and I'm not really sure what it is. It's just other than the genericness of it, it's the classic build, so. I mean, beautiful animal though. Still, I mean, just like it's the classic build in all the right ways, where these large pectoral fins, the prominent dorsal fin, the very strong caudal fin, these really subtle colors, the silveriness. I mean, it's your classic shark, your classic apex predator, the top of the food chain. So it's very beautiful in that sense. Conservation status endangered. I like Andy's notes. Despite the Caribbean reef shark's widespread distribution in the Caribbean Sea from the southeastern U.S. to Brazil, this species has a low productivity, 3 to 6 pups every 2 years, and continues to decline, up to 99% in areas where it is not protected. However, where shark sanctuaries exist, such as the Bahamas, Caribbean reef shark populations have remained stable since the 1980s. So another beautiful shot of these amazing sharks. Andy takes the best photographs, arguably the best photographs of sharks. I think he's the pro, the champ of shark photography. So great shot of these two individuals. Caribbean reef sharks inhabit the outer slopes of coral reefs and drop-offs. They also enter shallow bays and lagoons and are known to visit mudflats and river deltas in Brazil. Generally found from the surface to 30 meters, but in the San Andreas Archipelago, Colombia, is reported from depths of 45 to 225 meters, and through satellite telemetry is now known to dive to 378 meters. Surprisingly little is known of the Caribbean reef shark's biology, considering it's the most common sharks on reef in the Caribbean. So that's interesting. I'm excited for this behavior. Remains close to reefs and drop-offs in a relatively small home range. The Caribbean reef shark is known to enter caves and rest on the substrate, although it does not have the physiology necessary for buccal ventilation, the muscle control needed to pump water over the gills to breathe that sedentary shark species possess. Researchers hypothesize particular caves where this takes place may contain currents that are especially oxygen rich. So interesting. So that's actually a cool note that this shark shouldn't be doing what it's doing as far as chilling out on the seabed, but it might be doing it in an area that has a natural current or natural influx of water running over its gills. So, reaction to divers. Shy in remote areas where it is rarely disturbed, but otherwise fairly nonchalant around divers. Caribbean reef sharks have been responsible for numerous bites during beta dives. However, many shark feeders in the Bahamas wear chainmail suits. So we saw a little bit of that in the footage that we saw. So again, just to emphasize, fairly nonchalant around divers, shy in remote areas where it's rarely disturbed, bites when hand-fed. Diving logistics, here we go. Caribbean reef sharks could be encountered at many sites throughout the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Arguably the most famous shark dive in the Western Atlantic, if not the world, Stewart Cove, based on New Providence Island, offers daily baited dives with scores of Caribbean reef sharks. This is a very well-established feed, reliable, and great for new divers looking for a taste of shark diving without signing up for a dedicated trip. Stewart's Cove also features a shark feeder course where divers could don a chainmail suit and learn how to feed and handle sharks. In my opinion, this is more of a box tick for cert collectors rather than a viable way to learn enough about sharks to bait and handle them in other areas, but as an opportunity to learn some basics. Interesting. On Grand Bahama Islands, Inexo offers a similar baited shark dive with Caribbean reef sharks. At Tiger Beach, there's a site called Fishtails with an omnipresent squadron of Caribbean reef sharks, as well as lemons, tigers, nurse sharks, and sometimes bull sharks and great hammerheads. Other than the variety of species, the nice thing about Tiger Beach is the reef backdrops and the freedom that divers have to do their own thing rather than sit in a line and wait for the sharks to swim past. When we lead trips to the area, we split the dives between tiger shark feeds next to the reef and freestyle dives on the reefs, sometimes with a hidden bait crate to encourage the sharks to swim over a particularly colorful area of reefscape to help photographers get the best images. That's so cool. Neil Watson's Scuba Ventures, based on North Bimini Island, offers baited Caribbean reef shark dives at a spot called Triangle Rocks. This site only has around a dozen Caribbean reef sharks, but they're bold enough for good images, and you could see small blacknose sharks there. For the South and Caribbean, there are a number of island nations that offer shark feeds of Caribbean reef sharks. Dive safaris on Saint Martin has a well-established feed. Waihuka Adventure Divers off Roatan Island in the Bay Islands of Honduras has a good feed that also has a reef backdrop. It takes place in approximately 25 meters depth and often has great visibility due to Roatan's sheer walls and lack of runoff. In Cuba, divers can enjoy beta dives with Caribbean reef sharks at Jardín de la Reina, a beautiful spot with pristine corals and abundant sharks. And here are some of the images that Andy's collected on the species. So I wonder if we can cycle through to get a better view. So really nice above and below water shot. Again, all these images are just gorgeous. Fantastic image of just layers of Caribbean reef sharks. Nice pair of Caribbean reef sharks. This is so tricky. This actually really throws me off. Like, because these individuals look a lot more elongated, so they almost remind me of Duskies, except for the fact that the dorsal fin is further up on the body. So, beautiful shot of a Caribbean reef shark from underneath. Amazing shot of Caribbean reef shark with just at the top of a column of fish. It's super cool. Man, just these are amazing images. These look like jacks, by the way. And then it looks like there's a lemon shark in the bottom left corner. I think it's behind all the flags. So. A nice shot of a Caribbean reef shark over a reef, a little coral reef, with some chromis fish. I think we saw this photo earlier. Nice shot of a pair of Caribbean reef sharks. And this one's probably a good one to end on, as far as just like, the photo review. These are just like gorgeous, gorgeous shots. So, but yeah, shy around divers, for the most part, pretty calm, relaxed, easy to dive with. I think we could probably move on to any new information and maybe some of the science with a little bit of footage. So let's see. This is very weird. Weird note from Fishbase. A dangerous species implicated in an abortive attack on divers in the Caribbean. Meat is prepared. It's a very odd note because we just read that this species is pretty nonchalant, so I'm not sure where that really comes from. Oops. No new information here, so I think we'll go into, let's see some of the studies that we have. Okay, so we'll take a look at this one first. Reef fish biodiversity and occurrence of endangered sharks within a small marine protected area off St. Martin, Dutch Caribbean. This is by Nathan Peresic, Leslie Hickerson, Dehan Helwit, Daniel Norwood, Oliver and Shipley, Tadzio Bervowitz, and Austin J. Gallagher. Marine protected areas are common conservation tools supporting the protection of threatened marine fishes such as sharks. However, the creation of shark MPAs has been less common in the Greater Caribbean region despite a growing need for an opportunity. In this study, we evaluated the occurrence of shark and reef fish biodiversity off St. Martin, Dutch Caribbean, with a particular emphasis on endangered shark presence within the Man-of-War Shoal Marine Protected Area. We utilized beta remote underwater video systems, so it's really cool to see that we're going to see these systems. These are great ways to observe sharks in the wild, to gather non-invasive data on the abundance and diversity of reef fish and shark species inside and outside the local MPA. Generalized linear models revealed no significant effects on protection status on the presence of endangered Caribbean reef shark. However, we found a significant influence at depth on shark occurrence, as well as an effect of habitat type on shark and reef fish biodiversity, with reef habitats showing the greatest significance. These results suggest that the effect of small coastal MPAs on bolstering local endangered species conservation in the Dutch Caribbean is likely to vary according to habitat features and how those species utilize those habitats across various life stages. These findings have implications for adaptive MPA management, which should be informed by the ecology and habitat preferences of target species to achieve maximum benefits for biodiversity conservation. So we'll take a look at here's a map of St. Martin with the dots representing drop sites for the BRUVS, like the Beta Remote Underwater Video Surveys. And here is a really cool mix of Elazabrink sightings. So top left going to the right is the Caribbean reef shark, the nurse shark, the tiger shark, and southern stingray. So we'll take a closer look at these so we can get a better view. So these beta remote underwater video surveys are fantastic in the sense that they offer glimpses of marine life in a way that doesn't spook them. So there's a Caribbean Reef Shark making a close pass in this area. There is a nurse shark getting very close to the Beta Remote Underwater Video Survey. Clearly interested in what's going on. There also is a shark in the distance. It's a little blurry. Nice view of a southern stingray. Also quite curious about the the bait. It's actually really cool to see. Stingrays have a little fold of. It's kind of like a fin on their tails. So, yes, Howard just saw a comment. It's exactly like a trail cam. This might be my favorite shot. This is really, really cool. It's an adorable baby tiger shark. So it's amazing to see a baby tiger shark, with pretty distinctive stripes. Baby tigers are really cute, where they have these huge eyes, the characteristic square head, and then these distinctive spots that will eventually turn into stripes as they get bigger. And it's super cool to see a baby tiger shark because, adult tiger sharks are enormous and are, a dangerous species. So it's cool to see the juvenile stage of such an apex predator. So looks like in these sites you can see variance in biodiversity, or just doing what tiger sharks do. Yep, absolutely. You can see a variance in shark presence where it's a heat map where yellow is the most activity, and then where the warmer colors are most activity, the cooler colors are the least activity. This pink area is a no-take zone. The blue area is a reduced boat traffic zone, and the rest is unprotected. And you can see a marked difference where the no-take zones have a higher amount of shark activity than the areas that don't have protection in them. So it's actually really cool to see how effective marine protected areas are. Just showing that when you give sharks a chance and allow them the room to breathe and to grow in the way that they should, they're going to flourish versus unprotected areas. So pretty cool study. Since it's getting closer to 10:30, before we continue for more research, it might be a good time to pick a species for next week. So if there's any suggestions for next week's shark, please leave a comment in the chat. And I'll also kind of think of some ones as well as we look at some great Caribbean Reef Shark footage. Excuse me. Sorry, it's definitely... I've had a really good day, but it's definitely feels like a Monday. I've got kind of a fun one that is in a very different direction, but a grinning Isaac might be kind of a fun shark to do. This is a kind of cat shark that is native to South Africa. So it's been a while since we've done one. So I'm going to offer this as a potential suggestion, but I'm open to whatever. Grinning Isaac. The Isaac cat sharks are very pretty, and they're native to coral reefs of... sorry, not coral reefs, kelp forest of South America. South Africa. Oh my gosh, it is Monday. Kelp forest of South Africa. So it might be kind of a fun shark to cover. So, okay, awesome. So we'll do that for next week. It's fun to mix it up and do different families and different sharks every week. So, and it'll be fun to do... we're going from a very sharky looking shark to something a little bit more unusual, and certainly not very populous, at least in North America, or popular at least in North America. So, but by the way, beautiful footage of Caribbean reef sharks in a Caribbean reef. So again, it's like it's like a screensaver or like a just like a poster. Like this is just like beautiful water, beautiful conditions. It's just really cool to see. In emotion and to understand it's like this is a reality. These sharks exist in these areas every day, so it's super cool. I love shots like that. Just with the coral reef, like the different layers of the coral reef and the shark floating above it. So let's see. This might be kind of interesting. This is called Unseen Experts at the Sea. Fisher's local ecological knowledge reveals Lazarink hotspot decline around Curacao, Dutch Caribbean. Fishing pressure is the primary threat to coastal Lazarink populations, and understanding its impact requires long-term regional data, often lacking in complex, small-scale fishery settings. This is the case. Hey, Kian, welcome back. How are you? Or actually, you might be a new viewer. I love the icon. This is really cool, and I think that is. It's hard to tell from this view. But I think that looks like a tiger shark. And correct me if I'm wrong. It's hard to tell because the icon's really small, but it's super cool. Super cool. But welcome to the stream. We are talking about Caribbean reef sharks tonight. So, and it's been really cool to learn more about this shark. I think the biggest thing. Oh, sweet, awesome. That is so cool. I think it's been really cool to learn that Caribbean reef sharks. It's a Carcharhinus shark that can sit on the seabed sometimes. I'm really shocked by that, actually, because I know lemon sharks can do that and white tip reef sharks can do that, but I've never heard of a Carcharhinus shark doing that. And apparently the theory is that Caribbean reef sharks will kind of maybe chill out in these caves that have a water current that actively pumps water over their gills, because Caribbean reef sharks are not buccal pumpers. They can't actively sit on the seafloor and pump water over their gills like nurse sharks can. So maybe it's kind of like taking a rest in an area that has a flow of water, a natural flow of water that helps kind of simulate swimming in a water column while not expending energy. But that was probably one of the coolest things I learned tonight about this species, is that it can sometimes just sit on the seabed. And then other than that, it's endangered, which is really sad. Oh, cool. I live in the Netherlands, so I sometimes watch lives back, but I'm on vacation in Canada, Hudson Bay, so I'm watching live for the first time. Love it. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you. And also, hope you're having a great time in Canada. We have a lot of Canadian viewers who are, just been so supportive of this community. So, and also, we have more than one Dutch viewers really supported the community too, so I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, and I'm glad that you enjoy the streams and are a part of this community, so thank you. But enjoy Canada. Hope it's a great trip. I'm sure it's a beautiful time to visit. Right now, because I'm based in Virginia. Oh, thank you. What's your favorite shark species? So it's very hard to pick, and I think it's hard for me to pick a favorite, because I think the true answer. I have a couple answers. So I think the true answer is I love all sharks, and it's hard for me to kind of pick one over the other, because I do think all of them are in their own way just amazing animals, and are very just. I mean, they're just incredible animals, and each one is a different kind of shark, but is a shark. I love sharks no matter what they look like, no matter where they are, what they look like. I just love shark in itself. And I definitely have a preference for sharks over other animals. I definitely am much more fascinated by them than other cartilaginous fish, or just other fish or other apex predators. There's something about sharks that are different. So the true answer is I do love all sharks. Now, that being said, I think I gravitate more towards the sharks that are near where I am, because I really love studying kind of my home ecoregion, which is the Virginian marine ecoregion. So this is the area between Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Cape Hatteras, North Carolina is like the traditional definition. So it's like a very temperate area. It's very seasonal, and we got a lot of really cool sharks that come up in the summer, and then we got some really cool wintertime sharks that come down when the waters get colder. So in Virginia, there's about, if you include a deep water habitat, about 55 species. And then for species that you can dive with, it shrinks to about 30 species. So somewhere around there, those are some of my favorites. To be more specific, I really do spend a lot of time just like, studying bull sharks. Like I just because they are able to come into freshwater areas in this region, so they're able to go into the Chesapeake Bay. So Carcharhinus lucas is a really interesting species to me because of it, and it's not because it's like the big badass bull shark. It's really more because it enters into freshwater areas, and it's in that way, very close to where I live, which is kind of interesting. So I'm gonna say bull shark is one of them, and then another one that really is a soft spot for me is a scalloped hammerhead because it's one of the few shark species I've seen in the wild in its natural element. I've used to work with sharks a little bit, so like fishing them for research, but that's not really enjoying a shark in its natural element. I've done some shark dives, but like their aquarium dives are not really like they're not experiencing them in the wild. So, but the scalloped hammerhead is one of the few species I've seen in the wild just being itself, just and I've seen like bonnet heads and like I want to say spinners. I've seen sharks like spinning and stuff in the water, but really that scalloped hammerhead was a huge deal for me. So I'm going to say Sphenolini scalloped hammerhead. I would say those two are kind of my go-tos, but I do more things, more adventures, spend more time with sharks, study them more. There's more that kind of come in and out. So other ones, I think throughout the entire time I've done Dr. Jaws activities, other big players have been dusky sharks, sand tiger sharks, sand devils, dusky smooth hounds, bonnethead sharks a little bit. Oh, cool! My favorite Asian shark is for sure a scallop as well. That's so cool. Yeah, they're really amazing. They're beautiful animals too. They're so cool. The one that I saw, I'll never forget it. It was probably about like a oh man, over 10 feet. It was a huge individual, and like the thing I distinctly remember is just like the bronzy color, like it was just this beautiful, like just brilliant bronze color, and it just like it was about oh, it's so cool, like how they sometimes travel in groups around 50. It's so cool. Yes, so the ones that we saw were off Norfolk Canyon, which is about 50 miles offshore of Virginia Beach. So the water is like this deep blue. Like, if you've ever seen the Open Ocean episode of Blue Planet, it literally is that. And I was shocked because the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, it's not really well known for animals. People wouldn't point to that and be like, oh, this is a great place where you can see wildlife. But it is a great place where you can see amazing wildlife. And if you go offshore, the water gets clearer and clearer and clearer. We were surrounded by, literally, not an exaggeration, hundreds of common dolphins. We had a few pilot whales. We've seen one humpback whale, one mola mola, which is super cool. And then the time we went in July, it was a school of scalloped hammerhead sharks. So it was about 4 to 5. But there was one that came up really close to the boat. That's actually the one you might have seen. Where is this? Sorry, hold on. I know there's a way I can toggle my desktop photo. Hold on, how do I do this? Because I accidentally do it all the time. But, shoot. I have a great desktop photo of the scalloped hammerhead. How do I do this? Hold on. Maybe I can do an airdrop on my... Hold on. I'm sorry. Now I'm on a tangent where I'm trying to see if I can get like an airdrop of this photo. All right, Norfolk Canyon. Here we go. All right. Well, first let's see if we can get the pilot whales. All right, airdrop. Oh, I think I might be able to do this. Okay. Let's see. Pilot whales. There he is. Scout hammerhead. Who else we got? And I should get the common dolphins as well. What's really cool about open water habitat is you can actually, it kind of doesn't really matter, I guess, where you put in, because if you reach that open water environment, you'll get kind of a similar assemblage, and that's why I mentioned Blue Planet specifically, where it's like the Blue Planet special literally had pilot whales, dolphins. I think it had tuna, and it had some kind of shark there, and I think some kind of large whale. And, you know, open oceans, because they're kind of like marine deserts, it kind of makes sense that the species assemblage largely is similar to one another. Let's see. Okay, I sent everything on airdrop, so should be getting it soon. Okay. We'll give it a couple minutes as it's loading, because I would love to share some of these photos with you guys. So it's talking to my MacBook. We'll see what happens. So, but oh, there we go. Come on. Okay. There we go. Okay, let's see if we got this. There we go. So I hope you guys can see this. So these are pilot whales, and I've got more to share. So perfect. So these are pilot whales. And I think these were short fin. There's two species in this area. So there's long fin and short fin pilot whales, but I believe these guys were short fin. So, and I've got a better shot of them as well. So let's see. There we go. There we go. This is my favorite shot of the pilot whales. So I believe the one on the left is a male, and then the one on the right I want to say is a female, but I'm not 100% sure. But gorgeous animals. They're so cool. Have you seen longfin or shortfin? I think these are short-finned. I'll be right back because I wrote it down. I have like a little marine life album. 1 second. Sorry, so I have. Thank you. Yeah, I have a. This is like my my own personal underwater photo album. So, and I've kind of. I grew up as like a big Pokemon fan, so I have like all these blank pages that I fill up, kind of like a Pokedex. But I record what I see, and I have the species in here. This was a. I'm trying to remember what I wrote down. There's a lot of stuff in here, actually. Short-finned. So this is Globicephala macrorhynchus, I think is a short-finned pilot whale. So these are short-finned, for sure. So, that was, yeah, short-finned pilot whale. So I've got some more critters to share. These guys are super fun. These are common dolphins. These are beautiful offshore dolphins that have this like lovely like kind of like cream color on the side and like this nice like tannish back. But these guys were such big puppies. They loved swimming up to the boat and like riding the bow waves. I think a lot of dolphins do that as a behavior, but they had so much fun just kind of like cruising with us and like, you know, getting close, and we're curious and checking us out. They're beautiful kind of dolphin, just with that unique pattern. So let's see if we got some more here. Another shot of a common dolphin, and you could just see this is a great illustration of just how clear the water is. So this is off Virginia. So again, Virginia is not known for being like this marine life zone, but I mean, there's so much to see. So when you get further offshore, the water gets significantly deeper, and it's part of why it gets clearer. So, Cameron, right now I'm 16 years old and marine biology freak. In 1.5 years, I'm finally going to study marine biology, and I just love sharks, but also cetaceans. So really doubting which one I should be focusing. It's super cool, and honestly, Kian, you have like this is really exciting, and thank you, really appreciate it. And you have time. What's great is whether you go into sharks or marine mammals, you're still going to be learning the same fundamentals. So you still have to learn your basic biology, chemistry, and physics, as well as probably some math, or I guess not math, like biostats, like modeling. So the great thing is you'll have time. And you'll have time to kind of like learn as you go through your basics as far as like marine biology. You'll have time to kind of learn like, okay, which of these do I kind of like more? And they're both really cool fields. I mean, they're both like really fun disciplines. Sharks, I know, are just. I mean, there's a lot of research need for them because there's a lot we've learned on this channel. There's actually a lot of species that have just zero information, very little to no information. There's about 530 or 540 sharks now, so there's plenty to do and plenty to study. I'm not as familiar with marine mammals, but marine mammals are not like completely charted out because you think of things like the toothed whale, or no, the beaked whales. Beaked whales are some of the rarest, strangest animals where we virtually know nothing about them, and it's I don't know what it is about beaked whales, but like there's such a lack of information on them, which is really cool. So there's still I would say like demand for that or need for that as far as like mysteries for sharks and cetaceans, and they're really cool in the sense that I feel like sharks and cetaceans are two different but equally valid elements. Whereas like cetaceans are just they're so intelligent, they're so social. They are still connected to land. Being mammals as far as like they have to breathe air. There's that interesting connection there. And then conversely, sharks, they're more biodiverse. They are. I always like to think of sharks as kind of like very pure in the sense that they're just like connected to their environment, where they're constantly breathing and breathing through the water. They're osmoregulating with their surrounding environment. They leave nothing wasted. Sharks have this really cool feature called the spiral valve for the digestion, where it slows the digestion process and maximizes every single nutrient intake possible, and it's like a cool way of seeing how much they're like apex or how effective they are as apex predators and how efficient they are, and like they're really truly like the top hunters. They're just really cool, and I feel like sharks are just very like. I always get this feeling like they're very in tune with the ocean as far as like they are the ocean. They are just like living, breathing manifestations of the ocean. The top predators of the ocean. There's just something about their like physiology that just makes them so in sync and so harmonious with their ocean habitat. And it's just like I don't know. Like they're both cetaceans and sharks are both really cool. They're just like these different energies, and I just think you can't go wrong, which is great. So I'd love to study orca ecotypes because some of the ecotypes there is just almost no information and a lot of discussions if they should be their own species. I want to research that. So it's super cool. That is super cool. Quackers, I had a moment when choosing my major where I was very tempted to do marine biology. Yeah, so it's a really cool field, and it's a lot of fun as far as I think there's such an inexplicable, or not inexplicable, it's an indescribable amount of layers to marine biology where you think you know everything about the ocean, and then you get into invertebrates and water chemistry and like geology and how all these things like relate, and it's like it's a really cool field in the sense that it's kind of like endless. So good thing to do pediatrics because kids are super cool. Kids are super cool. And I'm very passionate about children and women's health, safety. Oh, Quacker says awesome. That is so cool. I'm gonna star that. That is a really really cool field and very noble. So yeah, that's really cool. The pay in marine biology wouldn't be enough for me to support my fam, but I'm planning on supporting Sharky science research when I have a good stable job. Love it, love it, and that's true. That is one thing that there is a way to make it work, but that is one thing. There's actually, let me find this. I'm trying to find a way to do this without sharing my Facebook, like my personal Facebook. There's a really great resource called Marine Biology Career Network. Let me see if I can find this. Because I was about to say, there's a lot of great discussion. Yeah, it is literally that. There's a lot of great discussion about the pros and cons of marine biology, where one of the cons is like, I can't speak for other countries, but I know in the United States, a lot of the entry-level jobs are like part-time, or they expect you to do internship stuff. So it's just like, it's hard to it is hard to kind of like establish a base in marine biology, at least in the United States, and kind of build from that, but not impossible, but it's tricky. And a great resource is Marine Biology Career Network. Oh, I totally misspelled network. Hold on. Marine Biology Career Network. There we go. So this is an awesome resource. It's on Facebook. They do a lot of job postings, and they also do a lot of career advice. And it's also a great forum for people if you had questions or if you want to observe other people kind of navigating it. It's very, very interesting. So I definitely recommend it. One thing that I also recommend too is no matter what field you go into, like no matter what you choose to do as like a profession, you can always become a scuba diver. And like one thing for me that I really like is scuba diving is a way to interact with sharks and be with sharks and just actually like experience them. And you don't need like a degree to do it. Like you can actually be right in the water with them and learn, firsthand in observation, like what they are. And there's actually a lot of dive operations. I highly recommend, let's see, scuba schools. Dr. Jaws loves SSI. But Patty is fine. So there's actually a lot, there's a surprising amount of dive schools, even in places you wouldn't expect. So, like, you could be in a landlocked country or a landlocked state, and chances are you'll probably find a dive shop that has a pool and that organizes dive trips to other parts of the world. So you can learn your basics with the shop, and then you can apply them to traveling. So no matter where you are, it is actually something that is possible. And I highly recommend SSI, which I think is Scuba Schools International. I loved my SSI instruction. That is my most recent certification. And the dive community is really cool. It's also very extensive around the world. So there's a lot of great SSI places where you can apply your license as far as diving goes. So I definitely recommend it. PADI is fine. I mean that positively. PADI is good. PADI is probably the most famous dive school in the world. I forget what it stands for, but it is perfectly fine if you just have a PADI shop near you. It's totally legit as far as a good diving school, but SSI is something I kind of recommend more. That's my personal preference. But Keon, do you know the company Shark Life? It's a company in Southern Africa. I want to work as an intern there for half a year, and at their site they have a lot of lessons you guys learn more shark. I've never heard of that, but that's actually really cool. Howard, I'm an amateur paleontologist specializing in chondrichthyans, especially weasel sharks, specifically Hemipristis. So what's really cool about that, it gets into something that I really care about a lot, which is knowledge, and if you have that knowledge and you have that venerance for what you're studying, you know, you are connected to that topic, and you're connected more deeply than, you know, people who, you know, they may have like the paper, you know, as far as like the education and everything, but they may not be focused on what you're focused on. They may not be actually like, you know, connected to what you're connected to, as far as like, you know, like studying Hemiprisis specifically. You know, not a lot of people are actually studying that shark in such detail. So, um, uh, yes, yeah, I love this quackers. It's amazing, especially considering Howard is single-handedly carrying diversity in shark art. Josh, what study did you do? So for me, I went into biology. So I had a very good biology education at the College of William and Mary. Um, there was a concentration in marine science, and related to that, William and Mary is connected to the Virginia Institute of Marine Science. So, which I didn't know. Well, actually, I did know that VIMS, Virginia Institute of Marine Science, are also known as VIMS. I did know that they did marine biology research. I didn't know how prominent they were, and VIMS was a really cool place. There was only 4 universities in the United States that were part of like the I forget it. I forget if it was like a subdivision of the American Lasberg Society, but it was like a very prominent like shark research council. And VIMS has the oldest shark research survey in the United States. It started in the 1970s under Dr. Jack Music, and it's become one of the most important shark research surveys in the world. And I actually participated in it for a little time, or a brief time. And it was something that, it was an experience that, you know, shaped a lot of, you know, like understanding the fisheries perspective of sharks, and then also kind of inspired me to go in a different direction where it's like I like more of the outreach. So I like more like talking about sharks. I've written a couple books about sharks, doing like lectures on sharks, or doing like the live stream or YouTube videos. Like I really like this kind of outreach aspect of just talking about sharks in a more creative way. And you know, it's been a really fun journey as far as like kind of talking about that, and getting back to what I was saying earlier about Hemiprisis and knowledge. It's like I learned from VIMS and from colleagues at VIMS that, you know, like traditional research is really great and very valuable, but it can, like, if you're passionate about something, if you are studying something in a lot of detail, you can actually maybe have more of a connection or understanding than, you know, areas that have a little bit more structure. Related to that, there was a paper that we were looking at briefly. I don't think we'll be able to get to it tonight, but Unseen Experts of the Sea, Fisher's Local Ecological Knowledge Reveals Lasberg Hotspot Decline Around Curacao, Dutch Caribbean. This is a really great example where we're talking about, you know, knowledge is not like necessarily a meritocracy, where it's like you have to respect the researchers who put in all that time and energy and effort into knowledge, and that's great, but they're not like completely privatizing knowledge, where knowledge comes from all these other places, including like, hey, here's, you know, people who are on the water, who are seeing sharks firsthand. They're probably arguably spending more time on the water than, you know, some researchers who are in the lab. So it's kind of like, it's an interesting thing to think about. And I think, to summarize, I think it's so important to recognize and acknowledge people who really truly care and truly like are studying something, and truly like just acknowledging and validating that they're connected to that thing that they love, and they're validly connected to what they are studying. I think that's such an important message, you know. So, let's see. That's amazing, especially considering Howard is single-handed. Yeah, so, oh, Quackers are right. I'm doing a BS in bio right now. It's awesome. Just gonna make sure I do the requirements for med school too. Gotcha. Oh, thank you, Keon. I just saw your comments on. So I'll put the link in the chat. So let's do Nichols Sharks. Boom. Okay, so I will put this link in the chat. So these are my shark books. The Bull Shark Compendium is more for like kind of more serious researchers. So that's kind of more like, it's a little bit more research heavy. And then the others are just kind of more like younger focused. They're like middle grade books, so kind of like middle school books. But yeah, so it's a little collection of bull sharks and then other species. I think my focus when I was writing those was species of the Chesapeake Bay area. So I have one more set of pictures to show. Speaking of sharks, by the way, so this is not a great shot, but this is a scalped hammerhead that I was mentioning. So I like this shot as far as like it's not that great, but it's kind of cool to see this like shadowy figure in the water and like how huge it is. And you can see like the classic hammerhead shape. So beautiful, beautiful animal. I have a better shot here. This is actually a little bit brighter. That's a much better view of that shot. And that's actually, I have a photograph of that just hanging on my, or not hanging, but like on my desk. And then on my desktop, actually, this is one of my favorite shark pictures. And I think really because I love that, like if you take a picture of something and if it doesn't turn out terrible and if it's actually decent, it's like it's this one of a kind piece that you have, and it's just like this is probably my favorite shark photo that I've ever taken so far. I would love to get some more underwater views of sharks, but so far this is my favorite photo of a shark in the wild. So this is Sirena lewini, the scalped hammerhead, seen off Norfolk Canyon in Virginia. So, yeah. Oh, it's so cool to see the way the top color applies to the ocean underneath. Yes, 100%. And also, by the way, I meant to mention Quackers for doing general BS in biology. You'll still be able to. You're probably still gonna like tap into ecology. So, because I think how it typically works is that regardless of what direction of biology you go in, you have to do a little bit of like molecular biology and a little bit of organismal biology. So, you might get some sharks in there, which is super cool. Counter shading. I forgot what it's called, but I love how sharks are so specifically camouflaged. So I think you might be thinking of counter shading. So how they're dark on the top and light on the bottom. So the dark dorsal area of a shark helps camouflage it from any predator looking down at it, and then the white ventral area helps camouflage it from any predator looking up at it or prey items. So it's both to hide from predators, but also kind of hide from prey, which is super cool. So it's almost 11, so I have to hop off in a little bit. Keon, do you have an Instagram account? So I do not. I think I briefly. I experimented a little bit with the different social media things. So I had one. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't think I ever had an Instagram. Now that I think about it, and I'm not. So far, I'm not interested in having one. I think if I have a bigger collection of shark photos, like my own shark photos, I might make one. But until then, I probably won't get one. I used to have a Twitter account, which I hated, so I got rid of that a very long time ago, before all the explosion of the Twitterdom, the implode. I guess the implosion of it. I briefly had a Reddit, same thing. I really did not like it that much. So I think I had a Pinterest at one point. So I tried all these different things, but the things that kind of stuck were Facebook, where the Dr. Jaws page has been useful as far as being able to talk with people and just kind of post things. And then YouTube, which I know is not technically social media, but I've actually really loved the YouTube platform, and I really enjoy how you can create content like this, but then also they have like the little like the post section, so you can have a little bit more instant communication. It's changed so much in its lifetime, and I really appreciated. Like, I mean, there's some aspects in which it's changed badly, but there's also some aspects which I think it's done a really cool job at improving. So really right now I think the big social media things are YouTube and Facebook for me, but YouTube is the thing that I actually like. I'm not a huge Facebook fan, but like I really am not a huge Facebook fan, but I use it like it is useful, so I use it because there's some value in it. But YouTube is the only, I think of all the social media stuff, I think YouTube is the thing that I genuinely really like. I actually really like how YouTube works. So, yeah. Oh, cool, cool. Quackers, congratulations. You're halfway done with your degree. It's super cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, you're good. So, Keon, you can send Facebook messages to the Dr. Jaws Facebook page. So I might be not the quickest to respond, and no worries if it takes me a while. The YouTube page also, or actually, if you leave comments on YouTube, that's also probably a better way to get a response from me, because I check YouTube a lot more often. So I hate Twitter as well. Love it. Yes, social media. Agreed. Social media is really confusing to me too, to be honest. When TikTok came on, I was like, absolutely not. I mean, that is for the younger folk. That is, I'm past that generation. I can't do it. So, but I'm gonna stick with YouTube. So yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. We're gonna close out with some lovely footage of the Caribbean Reef Shark. So here we go. Want to make sure we're here. Perfect. So guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a really fun stream, and it was really cool to meet this species. It's really hilarious that I went in thinking, okay, maybe we'll finally learn what makes this shark unique physically. And I love that Florida Museum of Natural History said that Caribbean reef sharks are just very generic looking. So it feels weirdly validating that I mean, compared to other sharks, I guess you can kind of tell it apart, but it's just like the classic. It's kind of like the perfect classic shark. It's like the perfect, like, if you think of shark, the word shark, it's a Caribbean reef shark. But it was cool to learn more about its behavior, specifically how it rests on the seabed. How even though it's endangered, there are some really good conservation management measurements in place to protect the species. And then also just all of our conversation in the end, really, really loved the dialogue. So I really appreciate you all being here. So thank you. And thank you again also just for the support. It means the world to me that we have such a fun, cool community. And everybody is just like very positive and passionate about sharks. So love you all. This is just really, really great place and really great vibe. And just, yeah, it's always going to be like this. And I just really, really like the Dr. Jaws community. You guys are awesome. But I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you enjoy the rest of this lovely summer week in first week of August. And we'll tune in next week for a unique shark, the grinning Isaac. So it's going to be a unique little cat shark from South Africa. But have a good night, guys. Cheers, and I'll see you next week for the grinning Isaac. So take care, guys.